What is up, YouTube? This is Alucard AFK with another MTGO deck tech. We're on our Mono Red Rush deck. It's called Mono Red Rush because of our Rush of Blood originally that I put in this deck. This is the tournament style version of the deck. Out of the last tournaments I've played, I've won 7 out of 10 with this deck. So I will show you exactly what the differences are between my single games and my 3-game matches and tournaments. So 21 mountains. This is a lot of people running Hellion Crucible. If I was running 24 lands, if I had any excess mana, then I would probably be running some of those, but that's not the case. We really need all of our mana every single time we get our mana. This deck with 21 lands is going to be functioning around 3 mana. That's usually how much mana I get out of every game before I win. So it can actually function very well with just 2 mana and beat them down with creatures. But when it gets to 3 mana, we really shine with our utility cards as well as our 3 mana burn spells. So let's look at our 1-drops, Pillar Flame. Pretty much everybody's running this. Is really great. For 1 mana, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. For creature dealt damage this way, would die this turn, exile instead. So you're getting rid of Avacyn's Pilgrim, the Llanowar Elves, any mana dorks that are going to come out and boost your their mana up. You're going to be able to get rid of those and exile them. It's also very versatile early game to get rid of their creatures so your creatures can swing in. And the creatures they're going to be swinging in are Recto's Cacular for 1 black or 1 red. It can come out. It's got Unleash. Unleash will give it a 1/1 counter, so it'll become a 2/2 for 1 mana on turn 1. That's pretty good. It only doesn't have haste, so I prefer the Unleash on the 1/1 creature. If it was a 1/1 for just had haste, I probably wouldn't like him as much. And he can't block with Unleash, but the theme of the deck is you're going to be really swinging in with every creature every single turn, every time that you can. Your utility is going to come in with how you, and your strategy is going to come in with how you actually use your burn spells, what creatures you get rid of, which ones you hold back, things like that. So there's 4 of those, 4 Pillar of Flames, 4 Vexing Devils. When a Vexing Devil enters the battlefield, it's going to give you your opponent an option to actually sacrifice it. If it does, it's going to deal 4 damage to them. So for 1 mana, turn 1, it's going to do 4 damage. If you get 2 of them out, you're doing 8 damage very, very early on in the game. If they leave it out there, say they went first and they have a Searing Spear in hand, they're probably going to let you keep Vexing Devil and then just remove it. So, but most of the time, you're going to get early game, you're going to get some 4 damage in pretty nice. So there's a playset of that. Searing Spear, very versatile card for 3 damage, target creature or player for 2 mana. So later game, you're probably going to want to do the 3 damage to the player and just knock him down that way, burn him out. But early game, it's going to get rid of creatures again to be able to, for your 2 mana drops and your 1 mana drops to go ahead and get swing in. So we're running 4 of those. 2 Volcanic Strength. This is one that a lot of people use on their sideboard. I chose to mainboard it. This is kind of the replacement for Rush of Blood. Rush of Blood is pretty powerful, but let's just look at that real quick. So Rush of Blood is for 3 mana. Target creature gets X0 to end of turn, where X is its power. So it's going to boost up its power, and that's really good. I'm not going to discount the card. I really like the card, really like the card art, but when you're talking about tournament decks, Volcanic Strength is a lot more powerful. And like I said, I don't choose to run it in the sideboard, just simply because I think that you're running it in the sideboard because you know that eventually most of your creatures are 2/2 or something, that they're not going to be able to swing in without getting blocked. And I can never see a scenario where you wouldn't want to boost those guys up, even game 1. So in the main board, you're always going to be able to boost those creatures up, and they has Mountain Walk. So really powerful card for 2 mana. Just running 2 of those. Ash Zealot, and the reason that is I still want to run 4 creatures. I don't want to run 2 Ash Zealots and 4 Volcanic Strengths. So I want to have the majority of each drop to be a creature. So Ash Zealot, really love this card. This is the reason I built the deck in the first place. There's 4 Ash Zealots. It's a 2/2 for 2, first strike and haste. Whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, Ash Zealot deals 3 damage to that player. Not really using that ability as much, but it does happen against some other burn decks that are playing graveyard shenanigans, so they tend not to do a lot of flashbacks. Rakdos Shred Freak, besides Ash Zealot, in this deck, Rakdos Shred Freak really wins the game for us. So 2 mana haste creatures are really nice. So he's a 2/1 for either 2 black or 2 red, or 1 black and 1 red. It's going to be straight red, of course, in this deck. He's just really the crux of the deck. So I mean, like, I win most of my games with just 2 mana, and I get my Ash Zealots out, I get my Rakdos Shred Freaks out, 4 of each, and they're running the board. Mark and Mutiny is another card that a lot of people put in their sideboard, and I've had a lot of remarks, a lot of questions about how well Mark and Mutiny plays in the main board, and I think it goes really, really good. This is another replacement for Trader's Instinct, and there's going to be, and that's really what my sideboard consists of, is cards that I would play instead, depending on the situation. So instead of Rush of Blood, I'm playing Volcanic Strength instead of Trader's Instinct, which is 4 mana, which we're not going to get very often. And Trader's Instinct does gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap the creature until end of turn, it gets 2/0 and gains haste. So if you don't want to give that creature a 1/1 counter, to be able, Mark and Mutiny for me is still going to be a win condition. A late game, you get this card, you're going to control their creature, put a 1/1 counter on it, you're going to swing in, you're going to win. If you give that creature back to them and they can still use it, it's got a 1/1 counter on it, so it's going to be doing more damage to you. So unless you can win the game with Mark and Mutiny, you don't play it. But like I said, Trader's Instinct is 4 mana, and we don't often get the 4 mana in this deck, especially in the tournaments. It's usually 3 mana as high as we get. Gain control of target creature until end of turn, tap that creature until end of turn, it gains 2/0. So it doesn't get the 1/1 counter. It can boost up its its attack power, and then when you give that creature back to them next turn, they're going to be the same as they were before. So 2 Mark and Mutinies. 4 Brimstone Volleys, very, very nice card for 3 mana. It deals 3 damage to target creature player, so it's a lot like Searing Spear with 1 more mana. But the Morbid ability is really, really nice. Since you have a lot of creatures, unless you have Volcanic Strength, you're swinging in, they're going to be able to block that creature, and it's probably going to die. But that's kind of the idea. You may have a bunch of 2/2 creatures out there, and yeah, you're going to want to swing in, and they're going to block 1 creature or 2 creatures, but then your other creatures are going to be able to swing in. This is really nice. So they don't usually expect Brimstone Volley instant. Like, oh, I just blocked your creature. Now, oh, I did 5 damage to that player. So that's really nice. 2 Splatter Thugs. Splatter Thug is a 2/2 for 3. First strike, it can come out as Unleashed, so it can come out with a 1/1 counter. It won't be able to block again. That's what the Unleashed mechanic does, so it may come a 3/3 for 3 with first strike. That's really, really powerful. Running 2 in this, there's 2 in the sideboard just in case I want to take out the Mark and Mutinies for whatever reason and run 4 Splatter Thugs. If they run some sort of spell that you can't gain control of their creatures, or they have hexproof or something, then we'll just swing in with creatures. So that's the versatility there. 3 Hellriders. A lot of times I'm running 4 in the main board for tournament style, and running 3 Hellriders just because, like I said, we're very rarely getting 4 mana in this deck. So Hellrider will usually win the game if you get 1, but I've never got more than 2 Hellriders out anyway in this deck, so we're just running 3. You don't want to get 4 Hellriders or 3 Hellriders, or even really 2 Hellriders in your opening hand, so that's why we're running 3. And then 2 Thundermite Hellkites, and of course Hellrider haste for 3/3 for 4 mana. Whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. When you get this guy out and you've got a bunch of creatures on the field, you got 4 creatures, you're going to be able to get plus Hellrider, depending or whatever, 4 or 5 instant damage to them, which usually will win the game. And if not, then all your creatures plus Hellrider will swing in and win the game for you. So, and then Thundermaw Hellkites very rarely get to this guy in this type of deck with 21 lands, but if you do manage to get him out, he will win the game for you for sure. So he's a 5/5 flying haste monkey. Whenever Thundermite Hellkite enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each creature of flying your opponent controls. Tap those creatures. Usually in token decks, this really just kills them. You know, I had a deck I played recently with 7 Lingering Soul spirit creatures out. They were all flying. None of my creatures could grab them, and they were swinging in for 7 damage each turn. Next round they would have swung in and killed me. I brought Thundermelt Hellkite out, did 1 damage to each of those creatures, essentially clearing the board, and then Thundermelt Hellkite could swing in 2 different turns and destroy them. So that's our main board, and like I said, I'm constantly swapping cards in and out of this, but I wanted to give you my base tournament style deck. So it's essentially red deck wings with a lot of utility. Sideboard, we're running Tormod's Crypt, sacrifice Tormod's Crypt, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. That's really nice. Especially if I know they have Elixir Mortality floating around or something, I'll go ahead and just get rid of their entire graveyard, and he exiles it. So Flames of the Firebrand, very, very versatile card. I had thought about throwing this in, but I don't want to replace Brimstone Volley. So Brimstone Volley can really, really do, you know, with the morbid ability, it can do 5 damage to that creature, to that player or creature. It's usually going to be the player, unless we just want to remove one of their big bad creatures for 5 damage. But Flames of the Firebrand is 3 damage, divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 creatures. So it's a good token removal. Rush of Blood, again, love this card, but it's not as powerful as Volcanic Strength. But a lot of times in the sideboard, I'll go ahead and throw, you know, I'll keep Volcanic Strength in there, but I'll reduce my creature count, put more Rush of Bloods. Gutter Snipe, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. It's not as powerful as it seems. A lot of tournaments style decks where we're using this card, but for 3 mana, you're putting a 2/2 in it every time you cast an instant or sorcery. If I find myself being able to do that, then I'll go ahead and throw some Gutter Snipes in, but it's just one of those. The sideboard is really just, it's not like a complete different strategy. It's just adding a little bit more utility, adding a little bit more damage, adding a little bit more versatility and how you use your damage, getting rid of their graveyard. And like this again, if Spider Thug, if I feel like I'm not being able to get a lot of my burn spells out, if they're bringing a lot of big creatures out, I'll go ahead and swap some burn spells or something, or some utility cards from more creatures. Trader's Instinct, like I said, it's just how you want to control that creature. So if you're finding that putting the 1/1 counter on that creature is, you know, bad for you, you can use Trader's Instinct instead. But it's a 4 mana, so we're not getting 4 mana, like I said before, every game. Usually not. Usually 2 or 3 mana. So, and then another Hell Rider. Sometimes I want to play 4 Hell Riders rather than 3. So that is Mono Red Rush. Comment, like, and subscribe, guys. We'll catch you later. Bye.